Hi everyone, I'm Jay Fadden. Thank you so much for joining us today here on This Is the Day. And Father Reed, we have a very, very special show.
We certainly do, because we have a very special guest. Monsignor Robert Deeley is with us. He is the Vicar General for the Archdiocese of Boston. It'll be great to have him right here in the Catholic TV living room. And also, Jay, we're going to go back to Rome again. We're going to take a little Viaggio up the Via della Conciliazione.
I like how you say that.
Like that?
That's impressive. Kevin, what will we hear about in the news today?
Jay, the Pope wrapped up his visit to Germany, and we'll look back on the trip. Also, Zambia's new president visits his Catholic parish for a blessing, and the Catholic Association of Latino Leaders is at the Vatican handing out a reflection. We'll tell you all about it. All those stories ahead in the news. Jay?
All that and much more right now on This Is the Day. Hello, I'm Jay Fadden. Thank you so much for joining us today on This Is the Day. I'm joined by my wonderful friends, Kevin Nelson and Father Reed. How you doing, Father?
Is that what show this is? This is the day? I lose track.
This is the day.
I lose track, you know, on weeks like this.
Yeah, busy week.
It's a very busy week, made even more busy by the fact that we have the telethon. This Friday, September 30th, from 9 in the morning until 10 at night, and Saturday, of course, October 1st, the Feast of St. Therese of Lisieux, the patroness of Catholic TV. Same times, 9 in the morning till 10 at night.
Well, before we even start with the telethon, I feel guilty. I feel guilty today.
Is that Catholic guilt?
I think it's just Jay guilt.
Okay.
Because what happened is, you know, I wished my mother a happy birthday last Friday. It was her birthday.
I recall that.
All excited, and guess what happened to my mother?
Oh, I heard there was an accident.
She fell and broke her arm. She fell and broke her arm, and you were kind enough to actually call her. I meant to tell her, you now are her favorite son. You know, she only had one son, me. Well, now I think you're her favorite son because you called her and wished her well and said a prayer.
That's the way it goes.
Well, she's
and
doing
she
fine.
broke her arm right up here,
yeah,
too, which is not
so
a good place.
So it's just in a sling. It can't be put in a cast or anything. Yeah. But she's watching this now, and she's going to be thrilled that Monsignor Deeley is here because he made their trip to Rome. I don't know, Monsignor, I don't know if you know this, but he made their trip to Rome when we were there, because of the Mass that was said in Rome. Yeah. So we might see some highlights of that a little later.
Remember that? That was a great moment. Right at the tomb of St. Peter the Apostle. It was just it was one of those moments in life that you just never forget.
And we brought our viewers here at Catholic TV to a place they probably will never see in their lives. And yet they were there in a very different way through television, thanks to Monsignor Deeley. So, and my parents were there too. You'll actually see my dad's head in the shot at some point.
And your mother Karen did the reading.
She did.
She was the
nervous.
lector.
She was very nervous. Well, the telethon. So we have the telethon coming up, and it is a wonderful chance to show everyone programming that we have, and we have some great program from all of you at Salt and Light. Our great friends out in Salt and Light have given us some great programming. But it's also your chance at home to say to us that it makes a difference that Catholic TV is on the air, that it is changing people's lives. So anything you can do, would really appreciate it. And I'm always impressed when the priests of this Archdiocese, and we get so many priests who call up to donate to Catholic TV during that telethon.
You know it's going to happen again. And, you know, for me, it's a wonderful opportunity for us to let you know that this whole place belongs to you. This television station, this network, all of its programming, all of its history and its future is in your hands as well as ours. And so cooperatively we come together, particularly at the time of the television telethon each year, to join hands and to continue to build Catholic TV for a bright future, and to continue to serve people and to evangelize, to bring the gospel message to people who perhaps have forgotten it or even never heard it, and also to connect people with Jesus Christ in the church in a very, very effective way. And we do that, we hear about that in letters all the time. So looking forward to the telethon Friday and Saturday.
I wish people could read the letters of the people who have left the church for one reason or another and have come back because of a program that they've watched on Catholic TV, or people who have converted to Catholicism. We've got some wonderful stories about that. You know, when you talk about people who have watched years ago, I think of my grandmother who left us many years ago and how important it was for her. I would come over her house and she'd be sitting watching the Mass or praying the Rosary, and I'd say, "Mom, just 1 second, Jay. Just 1 second. Let me finish. let me finish. And she'd have to finish. But it's your parents, your grandparents, your great-grandparents. We've been here for almost 60 years, and it has made such a difference and continues. And what's beautiful now is that we're reaching young people. And while a lot of them don't have the financial means to really donate, they need Catholic TV. And we have a lot of programming for them out there because of that.
And it's always good to hear from younger people, too. And like you said before, to circle back to priests, I was sitting last night in the rectory with Father Gene Sullivan, great friend of Catholic TV and a wonderful priest of the Archdiocese of Boston. He was going on and on about that very same thing, how when you come into a parishioner's home and the Mass is on or the Rosary, or perhaps not the show like Going My Way, you have to stop. You can't do anything until the show is over. So.
It means so much. I've letters, and I apologize, by the way. I'm trying to get to my mail. I have a lot of mail from people, and they're just great letters. There's a connection that is made, and I think it's important that we continue, and it's thanks to you, because without you, we'd be nothing. But one of the things we can do is bring you to places, like we said, St. Peter's, where you've never been before, and one is to Rome, to a very famous street.
Yeah, it's a street that was built by Mussolini, and the history of it was only there just recently, and when it wasn't there, St. Peter's and the environs around it looked very, very different. So let's just take a little Viaggio a Roma, and this time, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, to that very special street, which you're going to recognize, the Via della Conciliazione. Let's go. Back to Rome, I'm Father Reed. Ciao, amici. We are here on what is perhaps one of the more photographed avenues, and also for Romans who know their history, one of the most disliked roads in the city of Rome, the Via della Conciliazione, the way of conciliation. It's actually a relatively short street. It runs from the Castel San Angelo, which is down there, to the magnificent Piazza San Pietro. It is precisely because St. Peter's lies at the far end that this short road is so photographed and so well known. And yet, only about 60 years ago, the Via della Conciliazione didn't even exist. What used to be here was the Borgo, neighborhoods that grew up around the original St. Peter's Basilica built by Constantine in the 4th century. Now, through the 5th to the 9th centuries, the Borgo grew, and eventually it contained hostels for pilgrims, and monasteries, and hospitals, and churches, and water fountains, and lavatories, and food vendors, blacksmith shops. Simply put, all those things necessary for travelers and pilgrims who were visiting the city. Some of the Borgo actually still exist behind the buildings on either side of me. Now, the St. Peter's Basilica that we know today was constructed in the 16th and 17th centuries on the site of the ancient 4th century church built by Constantine. But unlike today, there was no one main road from anywhere to the Piazza in St. Peter's. So walking the narrow, twisted streets of the Borgo, visitors and pilgrims must have felt like they were entering a maze until they rounded a corner, and just imagine yourself in their shoes, stumbling from the narrow, dark, cramped streets, which were right here, into what must have seemed like heaven itself. Well, in 1929, Mussolini and Pope Pius XI signed the Lateran Treaty, a conciliation of sorts between the Italian government and the Vatican, hence the name Conciliazione. To celebrate the signing, Mussolini conceived of this grand avenue to connect the city with the Vatican. And so today, my friends, this stunning and very familiar view actually runs counter to the design of St. Peter's Basilica, what it was originally intended to do for the visitor. The Via della Conciliazione took away, in a sense, that heart-stopping beauty that pilgrims traveled thousands of miles to experience. The point was to walk from the bustle of the world to the serenity of sacred space. The pilgrim stepping from the maze of the Borgo to an experience of God. Ironically, today, the avenue now serves at times as an extension of St. Peter's Square, for example, at peak pilgrimage moments such as Easter or historical moments such as the funeral of Pope John Paul II? Well, to me, it's still breathtakingly magnificent. La via della Conciliazione. Ciao amici, ci vediamo presto.
And we are back with a little extra. We had a little extra there at the end. We just like to bring it all.
I had a cappuccino in here, but I don't.
Yeah. Hey, Kevin, how you doing over there?
Good. Jay, Father, how you doing today?
Excellent.
Very, very good. Are you ready for the telethon? Because you produce it.
That's right. I like the way because you produce it.
It's all on you. If it's really good, Father Reed and I will take credit. If it's not so good, we'll say it was you. How's
Yeah,
that?
you got a long way to go, but we're working hard.
Well, long way to go. You have till Friday, so you only have a day or two. You'll get there. Kevin, what's going on around the world in the Catholic faith?
All right, thanks, Jay and Father. Hello, it is time to take a look at the news, and we begin with news from around the world. Pope Benedict XVI concluded his trip to his native Germany on Sunday. During his stay, he defended the Church's voice in public affairs during a speech at Bellevue Palace and spoke to the German parliament, where he argued that belief in God was the foundation for Western progress in law, social justice, and human rights through the centuries. He also met with Jewish representatives and recalled the Nazi reign of terror in his homeland, saying it showed what people are capable of when they deny God. He then celebrated Mass in Berlin's Olympic Stadium and visited the Augustinian monastery where Martin Luther lived, after which he met with Lutheran leaders. In one of his final events, he addressed members of German Catholic associations in Freiburg. Rome Reports looks at the Pope's final day in Germany.
Before leaving his native Germany, the Pope met with members of Catholic associations in a concert hall in Freiburg. As a gift, the associations gave him this brief concert so he could rest before flying back to Rome. During his speech, the Pope reflected on what the Church can do to attract more people.
Seit Jahrzehnten erleben wir einen Rückgang der religiösen Praxis, stellen wir eine zunehmende Distanzierung beträchtlicher Teile der Getauften vom kirchlichen Leben fest. Es kommt die Frage auf, muss die Kirche sich nicht ändern?
The Pope said there is room for change, but the change must improve the mission Jesus entrusted him with.
Durch die Ansprüche und Sachzwänge der Welt aber wird das Zeugnis immer wieder verdunkelt, werden die Beziehungen entfremdet und wird die Botschaft relativiert.
To truly be herself, the Church must rid itself of so-called worldliness, said the Pope, meaning it should eliminate the superficial noise around it. The Pope went on to say the Church should free itself from political and material burdens that distract it from its true mission.
Ihn ganz zu sich selbst bringt, indem sie das von ihm abstreift, was nur scheinbar Glaube, in Wahrheit aber Konvention und Gewohnheit ist.
The Pope recognized that in any case, Christian faith will always be questioned, since it will always be a daring belief to think that God was crucified to give resurrection to others. Before leaving the concert hall, the Pope thanked all Catholics committed to improving everyday society. He said only a deep relationship with God makes it possible for one to truly reach out to others.
Looking now at news from around the world, Zambia's first elected Catholic president, Michael Sata, has announced that his rule will be based on the Ten Commandments. President Sata, a member of St. Ignatius Parish in central Lusaka, was elected September 20th. He told fellow parishioners he will fight against corruption because the seventh commandment states, "Thou shalt not steal." He said his government will persecute anyone who steals despite his or her socioeconomic status or party affiliation. He said he would ensure equal distribution of wealth among all Zambians. President Sata also commended the Catholic Church for its role in ensuring the nation held peaceful elections. Sata emphasized the need for people across the country to love one another and embrace reconciliation. Father Charles Chilinda, the parish priest, prayed that God would grant the president wisdom, knowledge, and good judgment so he could effectively govern the people of Zambia. The president of the Zambian Bishops' Conference, Bishop Ignatius Chama of Mpika, urged the new president to embrace all Zambians, regardless of their political affiliation, just like Jesus and the Catholic Church did. In news now from around the country, the head of the Catholic Health Association, CHA, is speaking out against the proposed religious exemption to the federal mandate that health insurance plans cover contraceptives and sterilization. Sister Carol Keehan, CHA president and CEO, and a daughter of charity, told the Department of Health and Human Services, the HHS, that the exemption is wholly inadequate to protect the conscience rights of Catholic hospital and healthcare organizations. She proposed that the definition of a religious employer be adapted to one contained in the Internal Revenue Code, which says an organization is associated with a church if it shares common religious bonds and convictions with the church. The current definition of a religious organization for the proposal has drawn criticism from the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops, the U.S. Archdiocese for the Military Services, and other Catholic groups. Sister Keehan argued that the proposed exemption attempts for the first time to force religious organizations to violate their conscience and provide coverage for items and services they believe to be morally objectionable. She also said the religious exemption failed to reflect the fact that Catholic organizations serve persons of all ages, races, and religious faiths, regardless of their faith or lack of faith. Sister Keehan said the proposed religious exemption raises serious constitutional questions by attempting to define whether an organization is sufficiently religious to warrant the exemption. And finally in the news, 4 members of the San Antonio-based Catholic Association of Latino Leaders, CALL, and Los Angeles Archbishop Jose Gomez have presented a written reflection, Caritas and Veritate, Charity and Truth, Our Response in Faith, to Vatican dicasteries. The red leather-bound document is meant to provide a way for the faithful to consider what the Pope's 2009 social encyclical Caritas and Veritate is asking people of faith to do differently in business, economic, and public life, and their role as faithful citizens, as well as provide a U.S. Latino perspective of the encyclical. The group hopes to present a special white leather-bound copy to Pope Benedict. Among those who received a copy of the document were Cardinal Peter Turkson, President of the Pontifical Council for Justice and Peace, and Cardinal Stanislaw Rilko, President of the Pontifical Council for the Laity. The organization's president and CEO, Robert Aguirre, said the 28-page reflection is also meant to be a resource and a tool for the Vatican because CALL's mission is to assist priests, bishops, church, and the Holy Father. And that is all the information we have for you on this Tuesday, September 27, 2011. Let's send it back over to Father and Jay with more of This is the Day.
Kevin, thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin.
Always a pleasure to see you, Kevin. Always a pleasure. Get that telethon done. Very important. Joining us now is Monsignor Deeley, Vicar General and moderator of the Courier for the Archdiocese of Boston, and also a good friend. I've known you for many years now.
That's right.
Monsignor.
That's absolutely true.
It is. I've done interviews with you at the Tribunal, and
I think we did marriage preparation together, didn't we?
we did.
Yes,
we did. See? So we've known each other for a long time. So it's great
Wonderful.
to have you back, actually.
Thank you. It's nice to be here, Jay.
And it's great to have you at Catholic TV. Tell us about your home parish and what influence that had on you, Monsignor.
Oh, I grew up down the street from the studios. I grew up in Sacred Heart Parish in Watertown. My family lived in Belmont, but in those days, and I think still, the parish goes up into Belmont, and we went to church down at Sacred Heart. Seeds of my vocation were planted there. Wonderful priests, wonderful sisters in the school, wonderful families. It was a wonderful place to grow up, and it was there that I began to feel I wanted to be a priest like those great priests that were in the parish when I was a kid growing up. It's a great place to be.
And you've been very much a kind of a citizen of the city of Rome. You were there as a student and as a graduate student, a priest pursuing higher studies, and worked at the Congregation of the Doctrine of the Faith. How has your experience of living and working in Rome affected your priesthood and your outlook?
I think, I think back. I think when I was a seminarian, when I was a seminarian and sent to Rome, I think it was one of the most pivotal and most important experiences of my life because of the leaving the United States, which of course is very important to all of us, but then having a perspective of being apart from it and distant from it. And in our day, when you went to Rome, there wasn't email and the ability to make the contact that we have today with the ease of telephones and all the rest of this. It just wasn't there. When you went, you made maybe 1, maybe 2 phone calls a year for the holidays, and that was basically contact. So it was a great experience, and it was a real experience of the universality of the Church, of the fact that the Holy Father presides over the whole Church. of which the United States is a very important part of it, but of the whole church. And there are all kinds of different ways in which the faith is articulated and lived in Rome and in the church throughout the world. And I think that's one of the things that I learned as a seminarian and have carried with me throughout my life in terms of the different things that I've been doing. Sure. Always that sense that the church is bigger than us, that the church has a vision that can be greater than what we're seeing ourselves.
I love the behind-the-scenes stuff, Monsignor. Now, you worked for the Holy Father before the papacy, and then when he was elected as the Holy Father, as Pope. What's he like?
Oh, Jay, I was quite impressed. First of all, I went over there to help out with the cases, the priest cases, the sex abuse cases. That was the reason that I went over to help out with those things. And I was so impressed with then Cardinal Ratzinger and his concern for the church, for the victims, for the people who were affected by that crime, and from the very first moment that I met him. And that continued, but he was a very human man, a very good man. He's shy, so he somewhat tries to stay away from cameras and all the rest of that. But he was a very kind. He is a very kind man, very attentive to all the people around him, and an incredible care for the people around him. I met him probably about 6 months after he had been elected Pope. We were over there for something or other, and I figured he's got a lot of things on his mind. He's doing all kinds of things. So I introduced myself to him. I just said, I'm Monsignor Deeley. Monsignor Deeley, I know who you are. And not only did he know that, but he knew where I was saying Mass and various things. I mean, he's a very good man who has a great care for all the people of the church. It's a great burden for him, and we have to pray for him and so that God will preserve him and care for him in this very important work that he's doing for the church.
And now you're home. How does it feel?
It feels very good. Yeah. I've said I wouldn't eat pasta for a year, but apart from that, I was ready to come home. When the Cardinal called and said that he wanted me to come home, I was just, that's part of what we are as priests. I mean, he said he wanted me to come home, so I'm coming home. Right. And then later on, about a month later, he told me what he wanted me to do. He came to Rome to ask that question directly. It's an enormous responsibility he's asked me to take on, but I was ready to come home. I'm ready to do what it is that he's asked me to do, and Rome was a good experience, a good part of my life, but that's over now, and we move on to the next step, the next thing.
Well, first of all, I can't believe that you've given up pasta for a year. I've had it for the past 3 nights. I love pasta, so for me...
But Jay, you have to, they do it a certain way in Rome, so I think the easiest thing to do is just leave it aside for a year, and then I'll take it up again. No question about that.
Oh, I know, it's so good over there. But vongole, am I saying it right?
Oh, that's right.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite.
Pasta alla vongole, si.
What does a Vicar General do?
The Vicar General is the person who is charged to assist the Archbishop, in our case Cardinal Sean, in the governance of the whole diocese. So he is responsible to watch over all of those things that the Cardinal needs to be attentive to, and coordinate the work of the many wonderful people who work for the Archdiocese, the work in the Pastoral Center, the work in the parishes, and to help the Cardinal to bring the vision that he has into reality within the church in Boston. And I think that there are so many wonderful things happening that we should really be attentive to, and that we should really be aware of, so that we can encourage one another in the continuation of the work of the church.
And certainly one of the goals of the Cardinal, his time here in Boston, has always been evangelization, and so obviously it must be for you too.
Absolutely. The Cardinal's letter on evangelization in the spring is a wonderful document. It's a masterpiece document. We can get afraid of that word evangelization in the church. We somehow think that we're supposed to get down to Boston Common and stand on a soapbox in order to evangelize. But the Cardinal speaks of the fact that presence, invitation, and presence, sharing, and invitation are the ways we do it. Just by going to church on Sunday. If you're in the neighborhood and you get out and you get into your car and you go off to church in the morning, the people around start asking, what's going on? That's evangelization. It's outreach. It's letting people know, my faith is important to me. I believe that Jesus comes into my life when I go to Mass, and I need that for what I do during the week. And so it's a way of inviting other people to come and share that with us. And I think that's so important, so important. And I think the Cardinal strikes all the right notes in that letter, and I encourage people to be familiar with it and to know it.
You made such a great effort to get out and visit priests while you've been back and be at things that deal with priests. I know the priest appreciation dinner, so on and so forth. Why is it so important, you think, for the Vicar General to be present and listen to the priests of the Archdiocese?
What is it that is the center of who we are, Jay? You know, when you think about it, the Eucharist is the center of who we are as a church. And it is our priests who we need to encourage and strengthen in their work so that they can be and celebrate that Eucharist for us and to bring Jesus into the lives of the people of the Archdiocese. And so by my work, I hope that I can do that. I can encourage them and let them know that how important they are to the work of the Church. It's been a difficult few years for our priests, and they need to know how important they are. The priesthood, the celebration of the priesthood the other night was a marvelous opportunity for that. I mean, priests spoke to me about how appreciative they were of that, of how much it meant to them, of what it was. And I think that my going out to the vicariate meetings and to visit with the priests is just an attempt to encourage them in the important role that they play in this Archdiocese. There's many people involved in the work of the Archdiocese, but our priests have a very central an important role to play because they celebrate the Eucharist and they make it possible for us to grow into a community of the faithful.
I like the fact, too, that you're a canon lawyer and you've had a number of assignments. You've been president of the Canon Law Society. You worked in the tribunal, of course. You were in charge of it at one time here in the Archdiocese. And you've been a pastor of a parish, and you bring all these many assignments to your present work as Vicar General. And I think that's great for all of us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I think absolutely those kinds of different things that I've done along the way help me in the work that I'm doing. Canon law helps you to think things through and have a logical way to deal with things, and then and being a pastor reminds you of what it's about. That we bring people closer to the Lord. That's what we're trying to do.
And now with the cooler weather coming, we have the official Catholic TV jacket, and it's black.
Oh, wonderful.
Perfect for a Vicar General.
Oh, thank you.
Now, Monsignor, I have to tell you, I did not get one of those. So
You have like 3.
I want 4. Well,
That's
welcome.
great, and I didn't even make a pledge yet.
Well,
I thought you only got these after you
you
made the
perhaps
pledge.
will.
Well, we know you're going to make a pledge. Well, hey, thanks so much for
Thank
being
you.
with us.
Good to be with you both.
Back. It's
Thank you
thrilled
very much.
to have you back. And thank you for watching This Is the Day Today. Remember to watch that telethon on Friday and Saturday, and make a pledge if you can. If you can't, say a prayer for the success of the telethon. And know all of you are in our thoughts and in our prayers.
And as we conclude our show, we pray that Almighty God would continue to bless you and all those whom you hold dear, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you so much for joining Monsignor Deeley, Jay Fadden, and Kevin Nelson, and all of us here in the Catholic TV living room. We love coming into yours. Until next time, have a great day and a great week, everyone. God bless.